Just a quick warning before you watch this review. This review is not just about what the game is like, it has a lot of footage of the game, so spoiler alert. Enjoy the review. Hello ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, Buck Let's Play here today, and I'm finally doing another video game review. Now I'm not a 100% expert on Dark Souls 3, but I absolutely love the series. I decided to do a review of the game today. It's such a fantastic game. I highly recommend you get it. It's definitely one of the games that's worth $60 that you pay for on Steam, or if you get a physical copy. Most likely you get it on Steam. A lot of games nowadays just aren't worth 60 bucks, but this one is worth it. It's worth every single penny. So sit back and relax. I'm going to tell you everything there is that I know, and kind of just the basic details of the game. Of course, I'm not going to be giving you in-game tips on how to do things. This is not a real in-depth review either, but I'm basically going to be going over some of the major changes in Dark Souls 3 compared to 2 and 1, and some of the really neat features that are added into the game. One of the first things I want to emphasize right off the bat, the music in this game is absolutely beautiful. Music presentation in the game is a #1 thing I look for, and this game has got it. Absolutely beautiful. I love the fantasy music they've added to the game. As for the startup menu, it looks pretty much the same as the previous games have. It has kind of a shorter intro, but the length of the intro means absolutely nothing. It's absolutely beautiful. It's worth it to watch it, every single second of it, but I'll let you guys do that on your own time. As you can see, character creation is pretty much the same as in 1 and 2. Nothing really that's a whole lot different, just a few things that really don't have too much of an effect in the game. Really, they're just changes to the way things look. You can actually make your character look young, medium-aged, or older. You have all your classes that are pretty much the same. You have Knight, Mercenary, Warrior, Herald, Thief, Assassin, Sorcerer, Pyromancer, Cleric, and the Deprived, which basically allows you to start with almost no stats, and you can kind of form your character however you want. Most of the items that you see here that you can start off with as a burial gift are pretty much the same as Dark Souls 2. Lots of them to choose from, of course. Each has their own personal benefit. Of course, there's a whole bunch of different face presets, different body builds, nothing different from the other games, but what's really different are a lot of the different options in appearance. I typically don't mess around with that too much, obviously. Dark Souls 3 and Dark Souls 2 and 1 to me is just getting into the game. But for those of you that really like to modify the way your character looks, they did add several new appearance options. So after you have created your character, you are going to start out in the Cemetery of Ash. You, as a Lord of Cinder, and all the rest of the Lord of Cinders are being awoken. And basically you, as one of them, are one of them that are technically, instead of in Dark Souls 2 and 1, the difference here is you don't have humanities and you don't have human effigies. This time you have Embers. You use the Embers to basically give yourself humanity like you would in Dark Souls 1 or 2. And unlike in Dark Souls 2, in this one, you do not lose health when you die. You just lose your Ember. You are kindled whenever you have used the Ember, but as you see, you start the game here in the upper left-hand corner next to the health bar and all the different bars. There will be an Ember symbol in there if you have an Ember, which is basically restoring humanity, but instead you're restoring your kindle. You're becoming kindled. Instead of being kindled, you are unkindled at this part of the game. Now, of course, the earlier parts all have the tutorial messages that you can follow. That's entirely up to you, but what I just picked up there is an Ashen Estus Flask. That's a major difference, especially when it comes to magic and special abilities compared to the first games. The Ashen Estus Flask is a flask that is filled with magic. You use this to cast spells or use your special ability with your weapons. If you're a sorcerer, you're going to want to use Ashen Flask more than Estus Flask. And that's another great thing that they added into this game. Whenever you finally get to Firelink Shrine, which you get to after fighting the first boss, you meet a good friend from Dark Souls 1, Andre, the blacksmith, and he actually allows you to interchange your flask. You start out with 4 flasks, and 3 of them are put towards your normal Estus, which you use for health, and then the other one is put towards your Ashen Estus flask. Now, depending on what character you have, it's going to vary on how you want to balance your Estus Flask. Now, it doesn't matter how many times you do it. You can go to him as many times as you want, and you can allot as many as you want towards your Ashen, or as many as you want towards your Estus. If you're a sorcerer, most likely you're going to want to have an equal balance between Estus and Ashen, but if you are a warrior character like I am here right now, you're going to probably want to have more Estus Flask, but you do want to have an Ashen Flask on hand, especially if you want to use the special abilities, which I'm basically doing right now. Whenever you are dual-handing a weapon, you hold down your left trigger button if you're using a controller, and it allows you to do your special moves with your sword. Now, if you are a sorcerer, you're going to have, of course, your sorcerer's staff. You will dual-hand that, hold down the left button, and it will also give it a special ability, which I'm pretty sure for a sorcerer's staff, it just allows it to do more damage. Now, as you can see here, this is your first boss that you have to beat. It's not very far from when the game starts. It is kind of annoying. That's the great thing about Dark Souls 3. They don't get rid of the ability for the game to not be really annoying. Unless you're a pro and expert at the game, you're obviously going to have a very hard time, and that's the fantastic thing about Dark Souls 3. Each enemy is unique. As you can see, that was the first enemy that you have to fight, the first boss. I went ahead and killed him on the second try there, but as you can see, when you get him down halfway health, before that it seemed like he was going to be pretty easy to fight, and then he transformed into this very ugly looking creature. So each boss has an unsuspected ability, and not necessarily abilities, but tricks, and that's fantastic about Dark Souls 3. You never know what to expect, and you always have to be on your toes. Now, just up ahead, past the first boss you have to beat, you run into Firelink Shrine. Absolutely beautiful place, and just like in Dark Souls 2, you actually have to talk to a woman who actually kind of starts the quest line. She tells you where you need to go. But more importantly, she is just like in Dark Souls 2. She is the person you have to go to in order to level up your character. Now, as you can see, this sword, you pulled it out from that first boss, and that's what lights Firelink Shrine, which I think is really cool. Now, it was confusing for me when I first started the game. Basically, she tells you what you're supposed to do, but like I said, you go to level up. I was confused. I ran around Firelink for quite a while. You don't actually go anywhere from Firelink. You have to go to the bonfire, and it takes you to the first area, and then you begin your journey. And here I'm kind of showing off the different stats. A lot of them are the same as in the previous games. Real big difference, though, obviously, with the new Ashen Flask. I'm getting ready to show you right here. This is Andre. I hope you guys recognize him from Dark Souls 1. You can click on allot Estus, and he will allow you to change however many Estus Flask you want. If you want them all towards Estus, or if you want to have some towards your Ashen. If you're a warrior that wants to use your special ability quite a bit, I would recommend having 3 to start out with, and then have at least 1 Ashen. That way you can fill up your magic bar and be able to use your special ability with your weapons. Andre is also the person you have to go to when you find Estus shards. That allows you to have more Estus Flask, and you actually get quite a few Estus Flask in this game. You go to him, and he will make more Estus Flask for you. Another thing I wanted to point out, as you can see, when I killed the first boss, you get your Ember, which restores your kindledness. Basically, and instead of, restoring humanity, you become kindled instead of unkindled. And as you can see, you have a little kindled flame in the upper left-hand corner, and your health is actually increased by, I believe, 40% whenever you do this. So whatever your health is, it goes up by 40%. So it is a little bit like Dark Souls 2. You lose health if you die, but you don't continue to lose health. Once you've died and lost your, you become unkindled, you're just back down to your normal health. But you get extra health if you're kindled. And just like in the other Dark Soul games, you have to be kindled in order to recruit help or go and fight people. It's just like in Dark Souls 1 and 2. You can actually go and fight people and gain embers that way. Of course, just like in Dark Souls 1 and 2, if you die while fighting a real person, you're going to lose your Ember. That's why you could use the the red cracked orbs as well in order to invade other people's worlds. That way you can steal the Embers. You don't really steal it from them. Of course you kind of do, because if you kill them, they had an Ember and they die and they lose it, which is really annoying. But that is still here in Dark Souls 3, a fantastic and fun way to get extra Embers. So besides the changing of humanities or human effigies to Embers, and now having a magic bar that actually relies on one of your Estus flask, known as Ashen Flask, the game is a lot like Dark Souls 2. I know a lot of people were actually kind of not really disappointed, but you know, the classics of Dark Souls 1 was kind of lost with Dark Souls 2. It got a completely new touch, a new feel, the movement and the combat systems. I'm not saying that Dark Souls 3 here has moved back towards Dark Souls 1, but there's definitely a noticeable difference the way your character moves compared to Dark Souls 2. And I really like it. I really, really like the way your character moves around here in Dark Souls 3. So that's a positive. Another positive is you are going to be searching and searching and searching for hours. There are so many areas to go off into. And I'm not even joking. Now in Dark Souls 1, it is a huge area, especially if you are a new player. It takes a while to get used to, but it's not too hard to figure it out. In this one, it is so much different. Dark Souls 2, it was a little bigger than Dark Souls 1, but in Dark Souls 3, the area I went to first was the most obvious from this one area, and it led me to this area. And I spent hours in this area, and once I finally found the boss and beat it, I spent literally an hour and a half to 2 hours looking around for the right area to go to next. It ended up this entire area was a dead end. And I found out that Lord of Cinder, the deacons were not a Lord of Cinder. So that required me to backtrack. And I did not know that. And that just shows you how easy some of these paths are hidden. There's literally a swamp. There's one way to go, but there are so many off-roads that you can explore to find new items and to look around. It's absolutely ridiculous how huge these areas are and how misleading they can be sometimes. This area I'm in right now is literally the area I spent probably 3 to 4 hours. It took a majority of that time just to get up to find where the bosses are and open up 2 shortcuts that made it a little bit easier each time. I mean, there's just so many factors that make it so much harder. There are actually 3 huge giants down there in that water area. One of them I managed to kill by very little luck. But like I said, the areas are freaking huge. And it will get confusing. But that is something that I think Dark Souls 3 strived to do, and it's something us fans really wanted. If you get frustrated enough, of course you can look online, which I finally had to. And no spoiler intended, but I found out I had to backtrack to go to Farron's Keep, back to the swampy area, which leads off into a very small, reclusive area leading down to Pharaoh's Keep. Okay guys, that was my review for the game. I'm sorry if it wasn't super in-depth like a lot of reviews are, but I put a lot of painful hours into this game, and there's so much to explore. I don't think it's possible to quite squish everything about this game into one review. I just wanted to get a lot of the changes that you guys might want to know more about, and that's basically what I have for you guys today. For a rating for this game, I give it a 9.5 out of 10. I think the ability to move around in the game is 10 out of 10. The mechanics that are used, I think, because like I said earlier, it's definitely not like Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1 is a little bit, a little more, not laggy, but slow. Dark Souls 2 was incredibly different from Dark Souls 1. But I, for some reason, just love the way that the characters move in Dark Souls 3. I think they kind of got a equal middle between Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, but a little bit more in favor of the Dark Souls 2 mechanics. The graphics are absolutely beautiful. I haven't found any flaws as far as I can tell in the graphics. And a 10 out of 10 on the area. I cannot emphasize how huge this place is. Like I already stated in the video, you could spend hours looking around in one area and it ends up just being a dead end. And that's kind of a reason that I'm also giving it the 9.5 out of a 10, because there were points where I was so frustrated I had to actually look up where to go next. And sorry for any spoilers, but from after killing the deacons, which is basically as far as I've gotten so far, the deacon lord, you find out that the deacon was not really one of the lords of Cinder, and you actually have to backtrack. And I didn't know that for so long. I had to go back to an area that I had no idea even had a second path, and it was hidden. It leads to the Farron Keep, and there's no way I would have found that without looking it up. So besides that, who could give this game a horrible rating? 9.5 out of 10. That's my rating. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please make sure to like it if you did. Subscribe if you want more content. I'd like to make more video game reviews in the future. Maybe some Dark Souls 3 gameplay footage. It's all dependent upon future events. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you later.